Welcome to the Drop In with Pindi podcast from Warriors TMA Academy, a podcast for everyone from business inspirational leaders, combat sports enthusiasts, martial artists, and fitness fans. Together, we can build our self-discipline, confidence, and positive mindsets through great leaders. Now, here's your host, coach and former pro fighter, Pindi Matahar.
Hey guys, this is Pindi Matahar here at Warriors TMA Academy in Coventry, ready for another podcast number 3. And today, everyone, I am truly honored to be here in the presence of my brother, my professor, Professor Salvatore. Thank you so much for coming along all the way from Bath, traveling to Coventry to do this podcast today. And remember, if you remember my podcast with my Professor Victor Estima, I was apologizing because my hair was all over the place. Today, I made sure I got a fresh trim for my Professor Salvo here because he made sure, obviously, I had to look presentable for him, okay? So I've got it on point for you today.
Wow,
so there you go.
I'm honored.
There you go. Professor, you're honored. You're honored. But guys, I wanted to get Professor on here today because it's great hearing all the podcasts that we're all doing and hearing everyone's story. Everyone's got a great story, but I know, Salvo, brother, you've got a beautiful story in the way where you come to UK, got a beautiful family, opening up, well, first of all, not before opening up your school, but competing, then opening up your school, and now you've got a very successful premium Gracie Barra school over in Bath. But before we get into where we are with the premium school now, let's hear about like how it all started. What made you as a kid, as a teenager from Sicily and Italy, and be like, man, I want to get into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This is what I want to do. How did it start? Let's hear the start.
Let's just say Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu came later.
Right.
So, 1980s.
Wow.
A series of Bruce Lee movies
Yeah.
came on TV. And I remember this was happening every Friday night.
Okay.
Right? For about 6 weeks, every Friday night, the Bruce Lee movies came on. And as most kids, I was intrigued. Yeah. I was taken. So I started watching these movies and I really got into them. Next thing you know, my mother couldn't leave her broomsticks around. I would chop them up, put strings in between and start making nunchakus.
Amazing.
You know? So this was pretty much my first visual impact with martial arts. Then we had a local gentleman there by the name of Dr. Catania.
Okay.
And basically this gentleman was teaching judo and karate. So I was a very lively child, you know, growing up in Sicily. Sicily is a very testosterone-filled place. Okay. And you can imagine, kids are very lively.
Yeah.
I was one of those kids. And I was getting into lots of trouble every day, you know. On my way to school, I would get a little scrap. On my lunch break, I'd get another scrap. And on my way back, I'd get another scrap. So it was, you know, growing up in that environment. Right. However, I started going along to the judo and the karate school.
Okay.
And, you know, my parents, they're from a different generation. They didn't kind of understand that I wanted to do martial arts. Right. So I began by just hanging out there and just watching the classes. Ooh. Eventually, the guy realized, I started getting me involved a little bit. Nice. And, you know, I would help him out cleaning the school and things like that. The next thing you know, I'm learning from him and my parents start realizing that it's something that I really started to get into. And that was the very beginning of my journey.
Wow.
Man.
What, and how long ago was that, do you say? 1980?
I would say it was about 1984, 1985.
Wow. Okay, so a long time.
Yeah, really a long time ago. Yeah.
And that was back in Sicily, Italy?
Back in Sicily, correct.
We had a great camp, which we'll go into later as well. We had a great camp in Sicily, which we'll touch on it later on. And then when was it, Professor, where you, obviously growing up, where was it you found Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Was it when you come to the UK or before?
No, so let me break this down for you. So around about 1990, my family moved to the UK.
Right, okay.
And as my family moved to the UK, I was a teenager. So, you know, I had to follow my family, basically.
Of course, yeah.
So I came to the UK. Immediately, I sought a martial arts school. I started training Thai boxing.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So at 16 years old, I was training a lot of Thai boxing. Shortly after, I started wrestling.
Wow, cool.
So Thai boxing and wrestling, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu came about in the mid-90s.
Right, okay.
And originally it came about via VHS tapes. So, you know,
Those of you that don't know what VHS is, it's
Exactly.
before DVD.
Before DVD.
Yeah.
So via VHS tapes, a group of us would get together. We start to practice whatever techniques we learned from the VHS tape, and we would begin to apply it. And, you know, it was a really difficult time. And I had this conversation not long ago on a different podcast.
Oh, okay.
The Gracie Barra podcast.
Nice.
Where they pretty much asked me the same questions, you know. And the thing was, we would order these VHS tapes from Brazil, from America. Sometimes they would arrive, sometimes they wouldn't.
I remember the days,
And we would practice these techniques. I fell in love with Jiu-Jitsu. I fell in love with Jiu-Jitsu. So given the fact that, you know, I was already wrestling and I had a grappling nature, it became pretty, what can I say? It was pretty much natural for me to flow into mixed martial arts.
Nice.
So in the very beginning, the infancy of mixed martial arts in Europe, I was very much involved.
Right from the beginning.
Right from the very beginning. And
That's
later on, I did a lot of submission wrestling. And in the early 2000s, I put on the gi.
wow. So
Yes.
after mid-90s, you found Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yes.
It wasn't until.
But we didn't have gis. We didn't have, there wasn't a school available. You know, I think the only school that became available was in London at the time.
Mauricio.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mauricio, yeah.
And, you know, picture, my school was one of the first schools.
Oh, wow.
You know, there was only a handful of schools.
Yeah, it wasn't available.
No,
I remember before I went my own journey, mine wasn't until 2006 when I went to Gracie Barra Bath, where Bradley and Victor was.
Birmingham.
Yeah, Acox Green. And that was that for me. I thought back then that was one of the first, because before that I went to America to do mixed martial arts. Realized I had no ground because I just relied on my stand up.
Yeah.
Come back to the country, search Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with the help of Eric Paulson. Search Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and literally not many around.
Yeah.
So how was it for yourself, like, to find that? Because were you based? Have you always been based in Bath when you come to, or was you? Or were you?
I was based in Bath, but you know, Bath is close to Bristol. Bristol is kind of a much bigger city, and I wrestled in Bristol, and I actually did Thai boxing in Bristol too.
Ah, nice.
Yeah. My old Thai boxing teacher, his name was Faira Meli, was an Iranian guy.
Oh, cool.
And as it turns out to be, my wrestling coach was also an Iranian guy, Amir Ismaili, father of Saeed Ismaili.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was, okay.
Yeah. So, you know, I have a very strong connection with these guys. However, the jiu-jitsu situation was a little bit more, it was difficult. It was different as well, because jiu-jitsu wasn't available to us. We'd only just discovered that jiu-jitsu was a thing after Hoist Gracie in 1993 or 4.
Yeah, 93, yeah.
93.
Yeah, 93.
Began to showcase this through the UFC. So this was our first connection here in the Western world with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So pretty much 1994, I'm already involved.
Wow.
Right, you know, so right from the very beginning. And, you know, it was pretty much, you know, love at first sight type of thing. Being a martial artist all my life, you know, up until this stage.
Absolutely.
It was just a very natural progression to go into jiu-jitsu, because as a martial artist, anybody who does martial arts will pretty much share I think this common view. If you're a striker, you'd like to also be fairly confident on the ground, and if you're a ground fighter, you'd like to be fairly confident on your feet too.
Yes.
So, you know, I always believed in that cross-training part. You know?
I 100% agree with that, 100%.
Yeah.
No, so it's great to hear.
In the middle of that, Pindi,
good.
In the middle of all of that, I almost turned pro as a boxer.
No,
Believe it or not, yeah. In the middle of all of that. So in Bristol, great boxing coach, Coach Mark Hammond, who's still around in Bristol these days. He's an amazing human being. Again, trained with him all the time, you know, had a few amateur bouts, you know, and I loved boxing. I still love boxing to this day.
Yeah, I've seen your hands, man. I've seen your hands when I've
they're
come
okay,
over.
right?
Yeah, nah,
for an old guy, right?
Yeah. Nah, they're brilliant, man. They're cool, man.
So, you know, I still enjoy hitting pads. And the reason I enjoy it because it's an alternative workout and at the same time gives you that confidence of thinking, okay, well, I want to remain well-rounded. I want to be able to strike. I want to be able to wrestle. I want to be able to do jiu-jitsu.
100%.
The only way to do that is to actually do it.
Absolutely. There you go. That's awesome, man. So where was it your first school in the UK? As in where you started jiu-jitsu? Was
in the UK.
In the UK.
With the gi on.
Yes, in
So,
early 2000s.
Early 2000s. So early 2000s, I would travel to Bournemouth and I would train with Alex de Souza.
Okay.
Alex is a great human being, great guy. But shortly after, Professor Carlos Jr. moved to Bristol.
Okay.
And somebody came to me and said, hey, Salvo, here's this phone number, phone this guy. So I phoned. And I phoned, and the next thing you know, I've turned up at this academy, and we hit it off straight away. And man, we're like brothers.
Absolutely.
We have the most amazing relationship. And I put the gi on, and I never looked back.
That's awesome. Those of you that don't know Professor Carlos Jr.,
Carlos Jr.
He's now based in Chicago, but originally, obviously, he come to the UK, Bristol. I believe he was in the Midlands as well, Birmingham at one stage as well.
He lived in Birmingham at one stage too, yeah.
And so now he's in Chicago, got multiple schools in Chicago, doing really well. So we'll get Carlos on here as well.
He's the regional director for the Chicagoland.
Ah, wow.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's awesome hearing the stories.
So Professor Carlos, who lived in Birmingham at the time, I would come to Birmingham very often.
Okay.
He and I and Braulio would drive to Hodger Gracie's in London. We would train at Hodger's. We would do whatever we did there. And then we would drive back. No, actually, this is how we went.
You'd have to detour to Birmingham.
We would drive there,
train,
have lunch in the car, rest in the car, train again, and then drive back.
So it's an all-day
This
trip.
is how it used to be.
Yeah.
But back then, in order for us to get training, we had to travel.
Absolutely.
We had to travel. There was not many high-level guys around, and whenever the high-level guys were there, they would congregate to be able to train with each other.
Yeah, definitely.
Professor Asif was also one of our guys. In those days.
It's
Professor
great.
Helio Jassa. Who is Sebastian Garnier's professor.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
You see?
So all the connections are there.
All
man.
of the
It's all
older
connected.
guys, we were there.
That's amazing.
Professor Victor wasn't in the country yet.
At the time, no. He came like early. This was like later on into 2000,
a little
2004,
later, just a little later,
5 or something he came. But no, that's amazing to hear because linked with Professor Victor, when we did his podcast, I was explaining the evolution of Gracie Barra, how it's evolved to where it is today. But before that, a lot of people don't understand of where it's. A lot of people looking from outside world don't see where it's actually came from. The struggles through everything. Because I remember when I first started with Gracie Barra, I remember the Gracie Barra, in terms of just the logo, we had the Tasmanian Devil coming out. Do you understand what I mean? I remember you had the shark.
That's correct.
Yeah, Professor Carlos having the pit bull.
The pit bull.
So it's like, it's seen the evolution to where it is now and understanding the Red Shield and understanding where it's evolved from, basically, and it's great to see. But I know, obviously, as you've touched upon, you were with Professor Carlos, obviously, in Bristol. Where was it, Professor, for yourself, where you decided, I know you were competing, you've won multiple titles, you've got multiple titles under you, you've created, I've lost count of how many champions under you as well.
Many at this stage.
But where was it when, as an athlete, because you're competing, that's one mindset, you need to focus on that, and it's very, as an athlete, I'm sure you can agree with me, you can become quite selfish because
as a
it's
former athlete,
because it's only you're focusing on you want to get to the gold and simple. But where was it whilst you were competing as an athlete where you decided, man, I want to start looking at coaching, I want to start looking at instructing, I want to start opening up my school? So where did all that begin?
Wow.
I know it's a bit of a...
No, this is a a hell of a journey.
Yeah.
And every time that I look back at it, I amaze myself, and at the same time I remember the struggles.
Absolutely.
I come from a different culture, different time almost, with in regards to how we thought, or my family thought, of martial arts. So when I told my family that martial arts was going to be my journey, they thought I was insane. I'd been to culinary school.
Oh, okay.
I'd become a chef, and I was working in high-end Italian restaurants, and I was very well paid, to be really honest with you. But my love was always in martial arts.
Yeah.
So, I would train at any given moment that I had a chance. Well, what happened was that I actually had a Thai boxing school. And whilst I had the Thai boxing school, I had a little corner where I would put some mats down.
Okay.
I had 9 or 12 mats.
Wow.
And literally I'd put those mats in the corner, and whoever was interested in grappling, I would grapple with them as well.
Cool, man.
And just, this was the very beginning of Gracie Barra in the southwest UK.
Right.
9 mats in a corner of a Thai boxing school. Okay?
That's mad.
So from there, my Thai boxing school was doing really well. And I had this little area where we're doing some grappling. But as it goes, I moved to Italy. I decided to move to Italy.
Okay, you went back.
So, yeah. So I opened my first official Gracie Barra school in Sicily.
Wow.
In 2004 or 5.
Okay.
Yeah. So I opened my very first Gracie Barra school 2004 or 5
In Sicily.
in Sicily.
Nice.
Professor Carlos is coming out regularly. Many of my friends from Brazil came to visit. Giuseppe Scambri, Nino Schembri, who is legendary pride fighter who knocked out Sakuraba. Those guys all came to visit me and stayed with me for long periods of time. And then, of course, for me, the next step was for me to go to Brazil.
Okay.
And that's exactly what I did. I went to Brazil, stayed there a while, trained with the guys, learned with the guys, learned to speak Portuguese.
Nice.
Which, always helps in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Learn to speak Portuguese and really immerse myself in the whole Jiu-Jitsu lifestyle.
Culture and lifestyle.
Really, the whole lifestyle. And training at Gracie Barra was incredible. I remember the first day I arrived at Gracie Barra, we walked in, and Giuseppe Scambri, who was Professor Nino's brother, walked me to Gracie Barra, and he said to me, the first words he said to me was, "Welcome to university."
Wow.
This is university in terms of Jiu-Jitsu.
Wow.
He said, this is like, the best place you need to be in the world.
Wow.
And, the rest is history, man. The rest is like...
This is the Gracie Barra HQ before
Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah, the HQ of it, which is now California, right? So,
which is now in California.
Yeah.
Well, they actually still call it GB Rio Matriz,
Okay.
which means Gracie Barra headquarters of Rio.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where it began. And
I remember seeing some old pictures. I don't know if it was recently or must be within the last year. I remember seeing some old pictures of yourself training in Rio de Janeiro with Professor Carlos.
Yeah.
Pretty sure Professor Asif was in there as well at one stage. In one of the pictures,
Asif
I'm pretty
has
sure.
been around Jiu-Jitsu
Professor
forever.
Marco,
Professor Marcos, yeah.
And there's a lot of you within that.
Yeah.
In that old school. Well, old school.
No, but
You
we
know,
are of that
old
generation.
school, old
Look,
school.
I'm a little older than most of them.
Yeah.
I'm older than Braulio. I'm older than Professor Carlos. I'm older than a lot of those guys, to be really honest with you. But, it was just an incredible learning curve.
Yeah. Obviously, your days in Rio, and that was pretty much your, not wake up call, but that was your like, wow, this is the level I've got to be at to be competing, to get to that, to have that mindset of an athlete, to be like, man, I've got to be surrounding myself with people like Professor Marco, Carlos, and everyone else that was there at the HQ at the time.
Well, check this out. I'm living in Nino Schembri's house.
Wow.
And the people I'm sharing a room with and an apartment with is Mauricio Shogun Rua,
No way.
Pride,
Oh my
Pride,
God.
and UFC,
And UFC,
like heavyweight
yeah,
champion.
man.
Murillo Ninja, his brother. Luis Azaredo. Vanderlei Silva's coming in and out.
Wow.
Because Nino was their jiu-jitsu coach.
Ah.
So we also had mats in the condominium.
Okay.
So, man, I'm getting training from every angle. So I'm getting training from Nino and those guys.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, within the condominium was a gentleman called Silvio Bering.
Okay.
Silvio Bering is like a very big name in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Anybody knows the Bering family?
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Bering family and the Gracie family have basically married into each other
Right, okay.
many years ago.
Yeah.
And they run side by side pretty much. So I would be, Giuseppe Scambri would take me to spar at some of the classes down at Silvio Bering's academy.
Right.
So Silvio Bering is the professor of Fabrizio Verdun.
Right, okay.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
And also I'm training at Gracie Barra,
Wow.
you know, because at that time it was coming up to the World Championships. Gracie Barra was so packed. You would arrive on the mats and sometimes there'd be nowhere for you to step. And we're talking about a very large academy, you know.
And you're talking of the weather in Rio as well.
The weather in Rio.
This is like,
Man, humongous academy, but everybody was in town.
wow, yeah.
Everybody
It's
would be in town. The World
Yeah, worlds.
Championships would be happening. I remember one time in particular, and there's actually a picture still that we have. I'll send it to you at some
Yeah,
point.
please.
So we arrive at Gracie Barra, Carlos and I, we get there. The mats are so full, we can barely walk through. We can barely walk through. Everybody is there. We go down to the car, we get in the car and we drive like 30 minutes. We drive 30 minutes to Master Carlos's younger brother, Helion Gracie, who had the tiniest little academy
Wow.
in another area of Rio de Janeiro. Guess who's there?
Who's that?
Myself, Carlos, Braulio, Lagarto,
Wow.
Kira Gracie, Jerry, like a bunch of guys.
Wow.
And we
That is
all trained there.
incredible.
And I never forgot the level of jiu-jitsu that I saw displayed in terms of technical level of teaching
Okay.
that particular day from Master Helion Gracie. Superb level of jiu-jitsu. And, you know, Master Helion was a black belt himself, is a black belt or a corral belt today
Wow.
under Master Carlos Gracie Jr. So everything always goes back to the mother.
To the,
You know?
yeah, man, absolutely. That's an
Yeah.
amazing story.
Yeah.
And then during that time as well, you competed in the
I
Worlds as well?
competed during that time. I competed
Yeah.
in the World Championships. I won.
Amazing.
Coming-
Did you, sorry to interrupt,
No,
but
it's
did has it always been, since that period, being in Rio, being around people like Professor Carlos and whatnot, that you're like, man, I want to get to the top spot in your division in Jiu-Jitsu? Or were you, because I know a lot of, recently doing a lot of podcasts and speaking to a lot of athletes out there who, in mixed martial arts, shall I say, competed a bit in Muay Thai. Me as an example, did Muay Thai, went into mixed martial arts, went back to Muay Thai, whilst competing in mixed martial arts, was doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so it's kind of like here and everywhere. So what about yourself? What was your journey like?
My journey was, I competed in amateur boxing.
Wow.
I competed in amateur Muay Thai. I also competed in the very first mixed martial arts that was going on in Europe.
Wow.
But naturally, it led me to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, yeah.
And then once I got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, really, I'll be honest with you, it kind of revolutionized everything I was doing. So I still enjoyed striking, I still enjoyed wrestling.
Yeah.
But there was something about Jiu-Jitsu which the other arts weren't giving me. What I felt it was the camaraderie, the brotherhood that we all had developed.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
The culture.
yeah, the culture behind everything. So I fell in love with Jiu-Jitsu. And to be honest with you, my whole life changed because of Jiu-Jitsu. I got so drawn in, so involved, so in love with everything that I was doing that all I could picture myself doing is exactly what I'm doing today.
Right.
So I went on to compete some more in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I won a world title. I won 2 European titles. I won 2 British titles. You know, I did a little bit for myself, right?
Brilliant. Just a tiny bit, that is. Yeah, just a tiny bit, right?
And I then...
That's awesome achievements.
I then decided to dedicate myself to teaching full time.
Okay.
So to be honest with you, at this stage, I'm 46, nearly 47.
Wouldn't say that. No.
But I haven't really competed since I was 41, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
Last time I competed, I was 41.
Wow.
But I've completely dedicated myself 100% to my students, my school, and the development of Gracie Barra Jiu-Jitsu, not only in the region of the Southwest, but really throughout Europe.
Yeah.
You know, I teach many seminars throughout the year. I probably teach 30 seminars a year.
Absolutely.
All the way to South America, North America, Canada, Europe, Eastern Europe. You know, I've literally taught seminars everywhere. And, you know, I really wouldn't have it any other way. I absolutely love
what you do.
My job.
That's awesome, man. And linked with all that, so you've gone into, obviously, you're competing, obviously how you dedicated your time to competing, and then you opened up GB Sicily in 2004-05 time. When was it in the UK you were like, boom, now's the time. This is my time now, I'm going to open up.
I returned to the UK in 2007.
Right, okay.
And it was then that I opened Gracie Barra Bath.
Ah, amazing.
Yeah, 2007 I opened Gracie Barra Bath. And, you know, still, you have to remember, in that time, in terms of jiu-jitsu, it's still the infancy for the UK, for Europe.
Around 2000, I remember around 2005, it wasn't, I'd say where it really started shifting was about 2008, 9, where more and more people wanted to be involved with jiu-jitsu. 2010, all of a sudden there's more and more schools popping up everywhere.
Right.
So it started to get the popularity, and I believe, like you said back in '93, with Carlos Gracie, obviously being the showcase of the UFC at that time.
Absolutely.
It was around, I remember, don't know about for anyone else, but I remember the time it was like Anderson Silva becoming champion, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, George St. Pierre around that time was dominating. Do you, like in the UFC, so I believe like with the UFC getting bigger and bigger as it was, and it was getting more and more popular here in the UK, I believe that was the changing of the generation of for people to start understanding what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is, because they were seeing these superstars on TV.
I was so lucky. I was so lucky because I kind of felt like I was doing the right thing at the right time without even realizing. Do you know what I mean? So when mixed martial arts became a thing, man, I could strike, I could wrestle, I could grapple, I could do pretty much what we needed to do. So much to the point, Pindi, that from the day I put a gi on to me receiving my black belt was 4.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an amazing achievement.
That's a huge achievement. Not many people can say that, right?
No, the average time, just so for those of you watching that don't know, the average Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner out there who practice it with a gi, it's about 10 years, right?
10 years.
To achieve a black belt. And you achieved it within half of that.
Yeah,
so that's an amazing
I have
achievement.
22 black belts under me, right? And most of them have earned their black belt within a 10 to 12 year span.
Wow.
You know, but you know, what I'm saying to you and what I mean by this is that I had grappled and I had experience.
You had the history.
I had wrestled, and my submission wrestling was decent from day one.
Yeah.
So putting the gi on, I just had to, well, it's not that I just had to fix a couple things, but I had to work real hard.
Understanding the grips and
But the moment that I decided to put the gi on was the moment that I decided to do jiu-jitsu.
Bam.
Full time for the rest of my life.
Amazing. Yeah.
And that's how I earned my black belt in 4.5 years.
Yeah.
But within that time, then I started, you know, competing. I won a European title 11 days after receiving my black belt.
Wow.
At black belt.
Awesome. Awesome.
So, you know, understand that, you know, it became my life.
Yeah.
It became my life.
Yeah. You become obsessed with it.
Absolutely.
Obsessed. That's the best way to explain it. You're obsessed.
I still am.
Yeah. Well,
to a certain degree, I still am.
Yeah.
You know, I am 46, but I still train every single day. Every single day.
You have to. Yeah. You have to. No, that's awesome. And obviously, you've explained the highlights with you as an athlete, from an instructor's point of view, from a professor's point of view, with you opening up in 2007 with GB Bath.
Yeah.
I know 2007 is a long time ago, but between now and then, what would you say, there's going to be, I know there's going to be many because you see, like you just said, you've got 22 black belts under you, but what would you say would be the biggest highlight of your career during that time of opening up, being a school owner, being a professor? What would you say is your biggest achievement in that? There's going to be many, I know, but what would you say?
Wow, there really is so many.
Yeah.
Right. I can tell you we have a Gracie Barra Bath, over 30 British champions. Wow. I can tell you we have a handful of European champions and a handful of world champions who train regularly at Gracie Barra Bath. Biggest achievements for me are, to be honest with you, I don't think they're related to what happens on the mat. And what I mean by that, it's still within Jiu-Jitsu, but it's not necessarily of what happens in a competition,
Sure.
or what happens on the development of somebody's skill level.
Yeah.
For me, the biggest achievement as a professor is being able or having changed multiple lives, multiple people's lives.
Absolutely.
You know, I have students who have come to me supremely overweight with various addictions in life, and you know, pretty much at the end where it's either make or break.
I can imagine. Yeah.
And I'm not going to say I did it, because I did not personally do it. I don't feel like I personally did it.
Yeah.
But through Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and the focus that one learns to obtain through Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and the enjoyable lifestyle, as I said, this is how I got reeled in, through the enjoyable lifestyle. I managed to change people's lives. One of those people who came in this particular state today is doing an amazing job. He's in great shape. He now owns 2 Gracie Barra schools.
Awesome.
He is doing great in his personal life and his career, and you know, everything is fantastic for him. But he is just a case. We have various cases throughout the academy. You know, to me, these are my biggest achievements.
The more important. Yeah.
These are my biggest achievements.
Yeah.
These are far more important than a gold medal that I get for competing in a tournament.
Yeah.
You know, I tell my guys, yes, it takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of sacrifice to get the gold medal.
Yep.
But that gold medal is almost just for one day.
It's going to go on your mantelpiece, and that's it. You never see it. Yeah.
But changing somebody's life and that person being impacted positively to the point where it can change his life, and therefore he will go on to change many other lives, that has an impact which is far greater.
Absolutely.
You know, far greater.
No, that's amazing. It's amazing, because I saw something, this is about a couple of years ago on your social media, and going back to what we were explaining earlier and what we were talking about earlier with Jiu-Jitsu, the culture of Jiu-Jitsu as well, and general martial arts as well, but more so in the culture of Jiu-Jitsu and Gracie Barra and the philosophies that we understand behind it, with Jiu-Jitsu for everyone and understanding the principle of Jiu-Jitsu for everyone.
Yeah.
Many academies across the world have got that, and it's great to see that. And one thing I've noticed about your academy over in GB Bath is that you are doing that right now. You've got a few students that I see that come into, I hope you don't mind me saying, but come into your academy, they're in a wheelchair, you're training them.
Absolutely.
You're still training them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's the meaning and the understanding of Jiu-Jitsu for everyone, okay? And look at the success that guy's having now. And I believe he's at, traveled to Italy with you guys.
He traveled to France.
With you guys. And it's just great to see.
Yeah.
And it's great to see and look at the impact, not necessarily Jiu-Jitsu, but yourself and Jiu-Jitsu and martial arts combined has had on.
Yeah.
Has had on him.
Ash in particular, you know, he's I met Ash, I was teaching a private lesson to a international rugby player.
Oh, right, okay.
The international rugby player at the time was Matt Stevens.
Oh,
humongous guy, 125 kilo athlete who ran 11 seconds under, 100 meters under 11 seconds. Monster of a guy. And basically Matt kind of threw me up in the air, pretty much. We started sparring, threw me up in the air, and on the way down I caught his neck and I choked him. No. And Ash was peeking through the window on his wheelchair watching. Next thing you know, he's come in and he's like super excited at what he's seen. And he started coming along to watch my classes. Because at that particular time, we were in a leisure center.
Right, okay.
He then started to come along to watch my classes. We became really good friends. Ash today is a great guy, a great friend, not just to me, but to everybody at the academy.
Yeah, I've seen.
And he has followed myself around to various competitions and has always been there, ringside, cage side, mat side, regardless where and what, you know.
That's amazing.
And that's amazing.
I think that's amazing to see. And you guys, when you follow Professor Salvo on social medias, you get to see the stories behind it, and it's great to see. It's an awesome thing to see. But linked with that as well, at the academy, one thing I like about it is that you've got multiple arts that you teach in there as well.
Yes.
You're a premium school, but it's a jiu-jitsu school.
Yes, first and foremost, it's
a jiu-jitsu school, and it's always going to be yes, 100%. But I love to see the fact that you've got other arts that you've got within the school as well.
Yeah.
Promoting other arts, which is great.
Yeah.
And you've just got a big variety.
Well,
of
Pindi,
instructors.
as you say, because of the love that I had for the other arts myself,
Yeah.
I wanted to have everything under one roof.
Absolutely.
Right. So we do have a Thai boxing program.
Yeah.
We do have a Jiu-Jitsu program, a No-Gi program, a mixed martial arts program,
Barra
Fit program.
Yeah.
But we also run something which is very important to me and very close to my heart, the ultra white collar boxing.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And we kind of do this together, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But the reason that this is something so close to my heart is because I lost a cousin of mine who was a student of mine when I had my school in Italy at a very young age. God bless him, God rest his soul. And, he died of cancer.
Oh, man.
And I always wanted to be involved with something that could impact the fight against this incredible disease.
Absolutely.
So the day that, I remember really clearly, the day that I picked up the phone from your phone call, it was like, it was supposed to be.
It was 100%.
It really was supposed to be.
So the story, the way, I should have said this at the beginning, but the way we met was actually through ultra white collar boxing.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually through jiu-jitsu, believe it or not. I was in London at the time, and I coach in London, so I was coaching the white collar boxing for the Stand Up to Cancer employers, so the employers at Cancer Research UK when we do our corporate events. And I remember finishing that, and I was like, man, we need to start some more of these events, because I can see the impact it's having, not on just the research that the money that they're raising for the research for cancer, but the impact as well. On top of that, the impact it's having on the individuals taking part, because these are, no disrespect, no one involved in martial arts.
Absolutely.
They're not athletes. They're just your average Mr. and Mr. Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I was seeing these people getting fitter, getting healthier, started eating well, started looking well, I was just like, wow, that's amazing. And that's when we were just literally starting everything off. And I was like, we need to do more of this and promote it more, because one, it's a great cause for Cancer Research UK, but secondly, it's a great cause in the sense of it's helping change people's lives for the better. And the people that necessarily wouldn't want to go into a gym because they're slightly intimidated, that wouldn't want to start martial arts because it's a scary thought for them. But when I remember picking up the phone saying we need to start one in Bath, we need to start one, and I remember I sent a few texts out, and I was like, does anyone know any schools in Bath? Like, as in any boxing gyms, any Muay Thai gyms, any Jiu-Jitsu academies, or anything along those lines? And it was actually Victor that said, oh.
Wow.
We got Salvo.
Victor,
So I was like, cool. Saw your number, got your number, rang you, and then literally it was in a couple of rings you answered, and there was no hesitation. It was like, yep. I was like, Salvo, but do you want me to explain everything to you? Nope. It's all done. I was like, well, and that was it.
I was waiting for this.
And that was the start of ultra white collar boxing in Bath, and how we've been running that. Well, you've been running that now in Bath since 2016. Am I right in saying?
5 years. Yeah.
5 years, and do you just let everyone know what you guys as Gracie Barra Bath have helped raise for Cancer Research UK?
And I don't know if I remember that figure.
Well, I remember.
Go on.
I remember when Professor Marco come to do the seminar.
Yes.
And that was in 2018. Was that right?
Correct.
18. I know he's been back and forth
Multiple
since,
times.
I remember the one seminar I attended at your school, and in that 1 year alone, in just 1 year, you did 2 events. You raised just over £32,000 for Cancer Research UK.
Wow.
So that's GB Bath as a whole, and that comes part of what you raised and your school have raised, and the participants taking part in your event have raised.
Yeah.
On the whole, as a nation, we've raised now over 22 million for cancer research. Absolutely. It's just a shame. Obviously, we didn't. It's just a shame that with the pandemic, it's come to everything's come to a halt. We can't blame the pandemic and the lockdown, but we really need to kickstart the fundraising again, because I appreciate coronavirus has impacted many lives. Many lives. But there's still people there with cancer, and we need to get the research going.
You know, Pindi, couple of things that I want to say. I think, first of all, that the work that we do for cancer research is incredible within itself. But then, you know, the individual that turns up on the mat is linked to that somehow.
Yes.
His best friend or his girlfriend or her boyfriend or mother, father, somewhere, somehow, they are linked to cancer or a cancer story.
Absolutely.
Right? And almost these 8 weeks of free training that they get is a gateway to a healthy lifestyle.
100%.
Because they arrive at the school, many of them are incredibly out of shape.
Yes.
And this is very normal, right?
Yep.
And together with myself and my staff, we not only coach them, we give them nutrition advice, and we get everybody pretty much looking a much better version of themselves at the end of the 8 weeks. 100%. So, you know, I've always looked at this program as a gateway to a healthy lifestyle.
Definitely.
Some stay on and continue to train martial arts with us. Yeah. Some decide to go and do something else, but that's fine. Yeah. I think, you know, we've impacted that person's life in a positive manner.
100%, you know? 100%. There's many examples of that, and it's just great to see the changes in people's lifestyles. And if they stay on, they stay on. Great.
That's right.
If they don't, so be it. No problem. But it's great to see that. Linked with all that, Professor, it's like you've been coaching, you've been instructing, teaching for so many years. As you mentioned earlier, I just want to touch on what you mentioned earlier with having black belts under you.
Yes.
Professors under you. You've got many black belts under you, shall I say, but with each one of them, you've seen them opening up their schools, you've gone visit them regularly, they come back to GB Bath. How does it make you feel to see the progression? I know we touched on it earlier, but how does it feel for you to see the progression of once what was your white belt? Once what was your blue belt, and then now them running successful schools?
It's absolutely incredible. But you know, the progression starts way before that person became my student. The progression starts within Gracie Barra.
Yeah.
So because Gracie Barra gave us the tools to do all of this.
Absolutely.
So, you know, originally when I first got involved with Gracie Barra, all we had was a patch.
Yep.
Literally, it was a patch with the Tasmanian Devil. Master Carlos would turn up at the academy. He'd have 50 in his hands. And first serve, first come, first serve. Gracie Barra has evolved so much. We have become the supreme organization in terms of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu worldwide. Yep. We almost have 1,000 schools throughout the world, of the which, if you buy yourself a membership in one school, you can visit any one of those schools and train there for free for a period of time. In Europe, many of us have put in the hard work. Yeah. Many of us, you know. Professor Victor, however, has really taken things to a new level.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
He has dedicated his life to Gracie Barra, much like myself and many others. But Professor Victor has really done an outstanding job, you know. And getting back to now my own black belts, we are able to do this because Gracie Barra is a machine that moves forward, but we move together.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't move by myself.
Of course.
We move.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
It's never me, it's always us.
Yes.
So with the 10 years ago now, the instructor certification, the ICP, became a thing. Instructor certification program, which is something that we are able to do online.
Of course.
We've all been able to do these courses, learn from these courses, and then be taught by your professors or coaches in your respective schools and understand what Gracie Barra is and what we're trying to give to the student who will one day become a coach or professor and pass further. So as I say, the Gracie Barra is a machine. So watching my students come from nothing, from perhaps somebody who was in a really bad shape and dependent on many things to becoming a school owner and somebody that will influence somebody else's life, these are my biggest achievements.
Absolutely.
You know, as I said before. And I think the important thing, however, is trying to stay connected and trying to stay close to the source.
Yeah.
So my professor lives in Chicago. There's not a week we don't speak. There's not a week that we don't send each other a message or a phone call or a video call. I think this is extremely important.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm blessed to be able to teach so many seminars around the world, so I also get to visit him and teach seminars in his school too,
Awesome.
which is amazing. But guess what? Even if I didn't teach seminars in his school, I would still visit his school because this is the source of my knowledge. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And I think that, you know, we must never forget where we come from and who paved the way for us.
Absolutely.
Okay? So in the UK, we had Mauricio Gomez, who is Hodge's father. Then later came Braulio, then myself, and many others.
Yeah, of course.
So, you know, these individuals that I mentioned, Professor Carlos, Professor Marcos spent time in the UK too, you know, Asif, many people who are sometimes forgotten. These are the guys that we need to pay our respects to and say, okay, without those guys, Gracie Barra wouldn't be where it is today.
Absolutely.
But without the vision of Master Carlos, we would all be nowhere.
It's true. That's true.
I perhaps would still be a chef who loved martial arts but was a chef and remained
would
a
do
chef.
it as a part-time hobby.
Do you see?
Yeah, absolutely.
But Master Carlos's vision was never one of selfishness.
Greater. Yeah, it's far greater.
Was always one of sharing, being open, and allowing everybody within his circle to prosper. And I proudly say that I feel like I've inherited that, not just from Master Carlos, but from my own father, from my, you know, my own family, who pretty much thinks along that way.
Brilliant. It's beautiful that. That's awesome, man. That's cool. So guys, there we have it. An amazing story, amazing accomplishments from yourself, Professor. It's great to see. Professor, if anyone wants to come and visit you in Bath, and how can they find you on your socials, in your school? Can you just let the audience know?
Absolutely. So for the website, it's graciebarrabath.com, real easy. We're on Instagram as Gracie Barra Bath. We're also on Facebook as Gracie Barra Bath. So guys, come and visit us. Give us a call, give us an email. You're always going to be welcome, and we look forward to welcoming you guys too.
Awesome. There we have it, ladies and gents. Thank you so much as always, Professor.
Thank you, Pindi.
Great to see you.
To be here with you today.
Appreciate you coming up. Hope you enjoyed that podcast today, ladies and gents, and we'll look forward to the next one.